Welcome back, my delinquents. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Sex Pest. Coming back again, tale as old as time. A male sex pest in the VTuber sphere, specifically also in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. We're going to be going over the story. It's not super long, but I feel like it's worth touching on the topic. This is about a VTuber that was reaching out to apparently lots of other creators to sexually DM them. We're going to be going over that and the repercussions from it. The story begins with Detmet Kupo, a Twitter user who I think is also an artist and inside the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. Can't remember exactly if they're a VTuber though. They were contacted by a VTuber who is a YouTuber and a Twitch streamer who is in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. I had met them once or twice myself. And it's about the fact that Miyazawa DM'd them, started a conversation with them, and it got incredibly inappropriate from Mio Sound. Go over to say here that they are coming out with this because other people had mentioned he had done this action specifically towards trans people. He was reaching out sexually to trans creators or trans presenting people on Twitter to be sexual with them. Deed mentioned they were hoping to become closer to people in the community, so they responded. Especially seeing he's not exactly a small creator, he's not a big creator, but he is semi-respected in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. So this is how the DMs start. That's my favorite flag. It's a very good flag. Talking about the trans flag. Beautiful flag full of beautiful people. Fitting, but a little bit true. Thank you so much, sweetie. How are you doing today? Teehee, good. They accept the compliment. They mentioned then that maybe they shouldn't have accepted the compliment because it led somewhere they didn't want. But just because someone accepts a compliment doesn't mean they want sexual talks. She says, you're literally a queen. You're too sweet. You're sweeter just by your attitude, Queen Slay. Apparently Queen has some sort of thing outside of the VTubing community with sexual terms. I'm not sure on it, so I won't go into it. So I'll leave that up to interpretation, what it means for you, because I was told by people that it can mean a lot of different things. I attempted to put the conversation back in more friendly terms by messaging him about a story related to Yu-Gi-Oh! See coaster trend, Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. And then they made a tweet about I'm all yours, my prince. That was meant for their boyfriend. They got a boyfriend at the time. It was in their bio. And they had some slightly sexy, suggestive posts. And that's about it. Nothing crazy, or I would put it as crazy. Me, an actual Prince VTuber, feeling called out. Some gibberish, or goes without saying, having you on my timeline makes me smile more seeing you as you're a queen. So this made a message saying he felt called out by the post I had that I was in a relationship in my bio. I will say in this, you can't assume people know you're in a relationship from the bio. A lot of people don't read bios. I don't read bios. A lot of people don't at the time, so you can't assume that they knew that they were in a relationship, but I would say you posting a post picture isn't a ground for them to contact you sexually. But you can't assume people read your bios, guys. You really can't assume someone knows you're in a relationship. You have to tell them. And if someone is flirting with you, come out and just say, don't flirt with me. That is my main advice here, is especially if you're in a relationship, don't assume people know things. Just say, I am not comfortable with this. And they do end up doing this eventually. And they do say they wish they did it sooner. So that is a lesson to learn here. Obviously, people in an ideal world should not be thirsting into DMs. It's rather annoying. The message that broke me was the picture I posted on November 2nd, which you responded to with the sentence, really, you're trying to make No Nut November harder. In reference to the trend No Nut November plan, he was masturbating to my photos. Okay. With stuff in here, I wouldn't automatically assume. And I will say, like, his stuff is probably too far on a casual acquaintance you barely know. But No Nut November is a general joke. I know that we're aware of it. No Nut November is a meme. So I wouldn't read so far into it that it implies he's masturbating to them. You can interpret it like that. And I know a lot of people did from this, but I wouldn't automatically assume that. But the thing is, what he does further down and his response to this is what's really damning about it, because you can say from some of these things, maybe he has no sense. Either way, as a larger creator, he should not be thirsting in DMs 100%. A little professionalism, guys. I know people hate that word VTubers, but if you're a larger creator and someone points out in these comments, which a larger following or you're a bigger name in a community, you have to take that on board when you message people that you have a bit more power than them and they may be more susceptible to you and your suggestions. So again, a little bit of leeway because it's memes, because I'm not going to crack down 100% based on further information. Based on these DMs, I am going to say how they sound here. But you could interpret this as they are masturbating to you. And that's something you have to think about when you send people you don't know stuff like that. It can be completely interpreted completely different than you mean it. So maybe he meant it like that. Maybe he didn't. That's the risk he took when he sends inappropriate messages, is it can be taken very differently than you mean it once it leaves your hands. really exactly what all the previous messages were leading to, and I felt I did a lot of fashion content at the time, so I thought I knew how to deal with the creeps, but hearing that coming from a new friend was heartbreaking and so violating. I don't know how close they were, so I am approaching this like they were quite acquaintances. I don't know, friendly. A lot of people have different barriers on that. That's a different story of a different time, where I don't think you could classify anyone on the internet a friend until like 6 months or so, but that's personal preference. And I would say, yes, going into people's DMs to flirt with them is a little bit dehumanizing. And if anyone flirts with you too hardcore when you're just becoming friends with them, they may not be interested in becoming friends with you, unfortunately. You follow this up with Sorry Queen, which not only was him just completely ignoring what he did and how it affected me, but immediately made me realize exactly what he had been doing the entire time, trying to stay composed. I told him why I was upset again. Please don't call me that either. Okay. I'm a boyfriend. This makes me really fucking uncomfortable. He tried to dodge the accountability and push the blame onto me again, saying he calls many people that I was the first person in his entire time on the internet who's not okay with it, that he just used the wrong humor with the wrong person before unfollowing me. Okay, the unfollowing is very suspect. It's suspect. I do agree Queen is very common in the VTubing sphere, but I think it's common sense usually to ask people if they're okay with pet names. All my friends have asked me when they come in. It's like, my friend Miwa asked if they can call me Cutie. So it's good to not just run in with a pet name if you don't want to be seen as potentially creepy. It's nothing wrong with just asking, is someone comfortable? Again, you can't assume that people interpret everything you say the same way you do. You have to have a little bit of thought that things can be miscommunicated rather easily, especially through text. I call many people that, no attention starting anything, but okay, I won't call you that or anything of the like. It's still a weird thing to call someone without making sure they're okay with it. I don't know, you're the first person in my entire time on the internet who's not okay with it, but sure, I'll make sure beforehand then in the future. Which could be fine. He could not be aware of this, completely ignorant to the fact, and he won't in the future. That is a okay response at this time. Only not okay with it because your prior comment made it feel really sexual and disgusting. Even then after that, I don't think I will ever want to be called that again. I'm sorry, that's really fucked up with me. I simply won't call you nicknames or make lewd jokes ever again. My intention was not to make you feel disgusting to or issue any disrespect. Just use the wrong type of humor with the wrong person. I'll simply take my leave and wish you a good life. Could have ended that with, I'm sorry, I didn't think about how it could be interpreted or something like that. But the wish you a good life feels very passive aggressive there at the end. See, this is the problem with this situation. Even if you're called out in these situations where you have made a mistake, you just need to take accountability for the mistakes and it would be different. But when you double down, it's very difficult to recover from. Don't be like that. What the fuck? I told you that I was uncomfortable with you and decided to victimize yourself. It's fine. Admit you fucked up, apologize, and we can move on. I still want to be friends. We can still be friends. I just don't want to flirt because you're sweet. You were just overstepped a boundary and that's okay. So are you comfortable staying friends? Yeah, okay, sweet. But he didn't quite actually acknowledge and apologize there. And I think that's the thing. It's sadly, this is so many guys on the internet just contact you only to flirt with you. It's really unfortunate, but this happens quite a lot. So you could, at the end of this discussion, put it as a learning experience, that he learned something, even though at the end it's very passive, and I feel like he could have said more to, end this as a learning experience and that he will improve, etc. I do partially blame myself for letting it get to that point. I should have spoken out earlier about his pet names. I should never have called him a sweetie, but at the time he was one of my only friends in the community and I was scared of losing that. You shouldn't feel bad about voicing your boundaries. And there's nothing wrong with voicing your boundaries, and hopefully they will get more comfortable doing that earlier. It took me a long time to do it, and it does help a lot, but it takes time. It takes time to learn how to do that and how to strongly voice your opinions from an early stage. Regardless, I hate that I allowed him to continue making me uncomfortable. I hate that I let him make a comment aimed at my partner about him, and I hate that I let him manipulate me so easily into rolling over and letting him get away with blaming me for his disgusting comments. Since this happened, I've made subtweets about the incident, which is how I found out he's done this to other trans members of the community, messaging them with the intent of sexual conversation, then unfollowing for blocking them if it wasn't reciprocated. See, that is a big problem here, is that he keeps targeting people. I wish I had more information on this, but I couldn't find any other people talking about this. But he seems to be contacting Pacific women and trying to get them engaged sexually with him and then blocking them or ignoring them if he's just no. Yeah, you don't have to be friends with anyone, but inside a community, ostracizing people because they don't want to sleep with you is very ick. It's pretty freaking weird. It's pretty freaking weird. Because at some point in there, you could say, like, there's miscommunication, not expressing what they actually want and stuff like that. But when you add all the other information in there mixed in, it's ick. And it just muddies the information already given. As I said, No Nut November could be seen as a meme. But when you put all the other information of sexually going into other DMs, it just even muddies it further and makes it the perspective completely change on what these words could mean. So we are then going into... So he then drops an apology. I only saw his third one, which was a lighter version of this. But this is one of his first of like 4 apologies. From my perspective at the time, if someone was actively posting stuff like this every day, I would assume that they were okay with lewd remarks. However, I was wrong. I've since learned to respect boundaries. In a general sense of trying to show that you've learned from this situation is pretty absolutely stupid. You don't double down on this, and next to the fact that you can't say, you look a certain way, so you should be fine with lewd remarks. You should not assume anyone, for any reason, is okay with sexual talk and to be talked to in certain ways. You talk to someone like a normal human being, and then you become closer to them, and then you learn how to talk to someone. You don't just ride in there going, but you wear fishnets, so why can't I say disgusting things to you? It makes no sense. There is no logic there. And a lot of people point out it screams asking for it behavior. And this really is what doubles down. The problem here is that maybe if he learned his lesson, took accountability, and he mentions that he now sees where he goes wrong, you know, communication errors, fair. But when you pair it with all his doubling down, his defensism, and not actually properly apologizing, it paints a worse picture of him. And that then leads to his first account is either deactivated or changed. This is the same profile pic he has on his YouTube. And then he has, I'm the problem, frustrated with my actions. So it's probably a renamed, then locked account of his. It came up deactivated before, but it's probably because he's changed his handle. So he hasn't streamed or posted a video since, but it's very likely he's most likely going to slightly rebrand and return. But when you combine it with the end result, it shows that he was using his platform incorrectly, and he was using it to try and pressure people to engage in sexual conversations with him, which is such a yikes. It is such a terrible thing to be doing. You should not be using your platforms or your power above people to try to pressure them into caving into your wants and needs. As a lot of people point out, that if you have any kind of position of power to a normal person or some sort of situation where they think you have power over them, you have to be aware of that and take that in consideration. Thanks for listening, guys, and let me know what your interpretation of this was below. I will catch you next time on the next video, my delinquents. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You got this, bestie.